Were frequent seances the cause of this home's enigmatic layout and seemingly impossible design?
Could former workers or even the owner herself be haunting this historical mansion?
Do ghostly victims from this famous brand's product still haunt the grounds seeking vengeance?
Find out the answers to these questions and more as we uncover the famous hauntings in history from the Winchester House in San Jose, California.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
And this is The Haunted Atlas, a Haunted U.S. podcast.
In the interest of fully exploring history of certain locations, The Haunted Atlas may discuss sensitive or disturbing topics. Listener discretion is advised.
A beautiful Queen Anne mansion sits on Winchester Boulevard in sunny California. The outside elicits thoughts of opulence, but the inside reveals a maze of 160 rooms, all created to appease ghosts. This home is incredibly famous, the Winchester Mansion.
I'm really excited to hear specifics because this is not something that I've really researched or looked into before.
I am excited to tell you all about it and hear your thoughts on the hauntings. It's known as, like I said, the Winchester Mansion or Winchester House, but also the Winchester Mystery House because of the layout. It's a Queen Anne style house located in San Jose, California, and the street that it sits on is actually named after the Winchester family.
Now, when you say Queen Anne layout, is that something to do with the outside of the house or the inside of the house?
Yeah, the Queen Anne is the style of the exterior of the home.
Okay.
It's like a old-timey type style, if you think of like a Victorian era house. The house is known to have one of the strangest layouts, and definitely, I'd say, the most famous strange layout. The layouts were attributed to Sarah Winchester, who was born Sarah Lockwood Parody. She married William Winchester in 1862, and his father Oliver founded the Winchester Repeating Arms Company in New Haven, Connecticut just 4 years later. You may be familiar with this company because the Winchester Repeating Rifle was actually known as the gun that won the West. It was produced between 1873 and 1923. This was a significant advancement because it was the first rifle that had cartridges that could fire one right after another, rather than previously they had to reload after every single shot. So this made combat a lot faster.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I'm like super into Western movies.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And one of my favorites is Young Guns, which is a story that kind of covers Billy the Kid. So I was looking on their website just to kind of see like what they were about. They had old catalogs, which was really interesting. And there's a picture of Billy the Kid just with a Winchester rifle in his hand. And I was in awe of this picture. It was so cool.
I love that connection. And it makes sense. I mean, Winchester rifles are incredibly famous and popular.
Yeah.
And in fact, when the company rose to popularity, it skyrocketed the wealth of the Winchesters, of course. Not long after, in 1880, Oliver died. So he was only functioning as the founder for about 15 years, and he left the company to William. Unfortunately, William quickly became ill with tuberculosis and died only a year later in 1881.
That was such a prominent illness back then. And I think that's common knowledge, but it's so hard to hear about because it's just so painful. And I feel like so many people that we talk about in this era of history succumb to this.
Yeah. And there is some speculation about the fact that this was a rifle company and the founder and his son died within a year of each other.
Oh.
Like a bad karma type of thing.
That's a really good theory, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. But when William died, he left his fortune to Sarah. And so she decided to get a new start, leave Connecticut, and move west in 1885. Initially, she bought an 8-room farmhouse, which for her wealth was pretty modest of a place to live.
That's what I thought. I was like, that's not a huge place for someone who quite literally was the wife of someone whose father started this entire rifle company.
Right. But what do you really need? You know,
true.
8 rooms is a lot. And I guess you could hire staff to help take care of it. But it's also 1885. So an 8-room house is pretty big.
Oh, true.
She quickly started to remodel it after she purchased it. And this began a decades-long series of remodels, leading to her infamous strange floor plan. she constantly requested that changes be made, including adding doors and staircases to nowhere.
To nowhere?
Mm-hmm.
So you would open a door and it would just be...
It could be a brick wall. It could open to the outside.
Oh.
Yeah. Or it could make no sense. So it could be 2 doors and 2 walls in like a tiny little square room.
Oh, okay. And then the staircases, those are just dead ends. Is that what that was like?
They would go up to a ceiling, for example.
Huh.
And by 1900, the house had adopted a Queen Anne style on the exterior, despite the strangeness of the interior, and it had a tower that was 7 stories tall.
I can't imagine being a pet in this household. Not that she had any, but I can't imagine being like a tiny cat trying to traverse my way around this place and get used to it. And just, I mean, I know animals are smart when it comes to that, but I feel like they would just get lost everywhere.
Well, I was thinking of guests. Imagine you go to stay in this house and in the middle of the night, you have to use the bathroom and you have a candle because it's 1900 and you're just walking along. It's like you open a door. Nope. Try to take the stairs. Nope. So It must be freaky to experience it.
Also, I don't know how many people were scared of the dark back then because, you know, maybe not as many because they didn't have as many lights. So it was just normal. But I would be terrified trying to walk up those stairs in the dark and then just be led nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. It must have been really freaky. And I don't know how often she had guests, if at all.
Right.
In 1906, an earthquake hit and it toppled parts of the home, including the tower. Sarah did repair the house, but moving forward, she spent less time there making modifications. It's almost as if she put her energy into restoring what she had already built versus the additional modifications. And she actually moved in 1910. So she lived there not an incredibly long time. 25 years.
No, I wonder if I'm just kind of imagining her getting to a point where she's like, you know what? I messed this one up. I might as well get out of here, start over.
She's like, what was I doing? This house makes no sense. I can't live here.
Right.
No, I think the real reason she moved is because she wanted to be closer to family.
Oh, that's nice.
And so she lived closer to family until her death in 1922. In 1923, so just 1 year after her death, the home opened for tours operated by the Brown family. And they had many famous visitors, which was very interesting to me, including Harry Houdini.
Oh my gosh, that's really cool.
He visited the mansion in 1924, and he was actually, allegedly, the first person to refer to it as the Mystery House.
Which tracks, I think, you know, as a magician.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I agree. And I also wonder if he was looking at it and thinking like, oh, I could do tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
In the 1970s, the house underwent extensive renovation as it was made a state landmark and added to the National Register of Historical Places. Restoration continues today, and visitors can still visit. While visitors are sure to see the beautiful architecture of the home, they may also be lucky enough to see a ghost.
Hey guys, I'm Tommy from Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast, where we talk to real people and have real conversations about paranormal experiences, including ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and all high strangeness, and even a little bit of conspiracy too. So if you enjoy these freaky conversations, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're also available to watch on YouTube. Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky.
The initial paranormal claims of the Winchester house really boil down to Sarah herself. Because as you can imagine, she wasn't just building and building and building for no reason. She was said to be haunted as a person, with the spirits attaching themselves to her rather than to a given location.
That is honestly my worst fear of like us doing investigations and things like that. I don't think it would ever happen, but it's a scary thought that you just can't escape whatever's haunting you.
Absolutely. And I think there's 2 theories behind her haunting, and both of them are equally scary because she didn't necessarily do anything wrong in either case.
Right.
The first theory is that the spirits haunting her are the spirits of those killed with Winchester rifles.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And that kind of ties back into Oliver and William both dying within a year of each other. And That's scary because it's one, a lot of people, and two, it's not a direct result of something she did. It was her father-in-law's company.
Right. And I wonder if, her father-in-law and William had still been alive, if Oliver and William were still alive, if they would have been the people haunted instead of her. But, she's the last remaining immediate family member.
Mm-hmm. And it's the idea of she's getting all of this wealth off of the death of people.
Ah.
The other theory is that she had been troubled by spirits since a young age, and that this group of ghosts just kind of followed her around throughout her life, which is also terrifying.
Yes, because in that case, there's really no reason for it. It's almost as if they want her to help them, but she might be frightened or might not know how, and so they've just followed her throughout her life.
Yeah, I think it's less likely, in my opinion, that it's the second one, because this strange behavior didn't start until she moved to California.
Oh, okay.
And so that makes me think that it would be not a lifelong haunting, but rather a new haunting.
Yeah.
So that's her hauntings. Next is, how does the excessive building tie into this? And the reasoning also has some variants. One theory is that she held seances with the spirits to determine what modifications they wanted done in the home.
Oh.
Which is a very interesting concept to me. It's like these ghostly interior designers.
Yeah. And not even good interior designers.
Right. Right. It's like, well, we don't care about walls or floors or ceilings, so build a staircase here.
Yeah. I'd like a door here. Okay, do you want a room? No. Just the door.
Just the door, please. Brick the other side. Then she would the next day request that their desired modification staircases be made in an effort to appease these spirits. Now, the family does refute this because they do say that she never held seances, but who can really say for sure? She could have been doing that alone in her home, or the family could just not like the idea of the paranormal.
Right.
It could be either, or maybe she didn't hold the seances. We can't know for certain.
Well, and even if she didn't hold the seances, that could be someone's explanation of how she was communicating with the spirits, but she might not have necessarily had to hold seances in order to communicate with the spirits.
That's true. That's a very good point. If they were following her around, or maybe she was sensitive to them, they could have just been communicating.
Right.
The other theory is that she kept building because the spirits would kill her if she didn't.
Oh, that's a scarier theory.
Yeah, but it is my favorite theory because I like scary stuff.
Right.
Some say that the staircases and doors to nowhere were intended to confuse the spirits, to prevent them from finding her in the house.
Oh, I feel like that is the more interesting theory of the two.
Yeah, I think so. But that requires a few logic leaps of, okay, these are negative spirits, which to me falls it into the category of the Winchester rifle deaths, and that she was able to somehow know that they wanted to harm her.
Yeah.
And that this was tripping them up by changing the layout continually. So there's a few logic leaps there, but those are the theories behind the strange layout.
Right. And at one point you said that she did stop making changes, right? And just focused on restoration?
It was after she moved out.
Okay. From
what I saw, she didn't make extensive modifications to her next home. It was just this mansion.
Huh. I wonder if the first theory might be true and the spirits stayed behind at the house that they had built.
That could be. It could be. Maybe it is a combination of trapping the spirits, and it doesn't matter if they're Winchester rifle or if they've been there the whole time. Now they're confused.
Yes, that's a really good point too. It could have just confused them to the point where she walked out the door one day and that was it.
And then she wakes up the next morning. She's like, oh my gosh.
Peace.
Yeah. So if Sarah herself was said to be haunted, it begs the question, is the Winchester house still haunted today? And the answer is that many people think so. Visitors report shadow figures and strange apparitions throughout the house. One of the best known shadow figures is Clyde, who was a construction worker there. He's seen in the gardens, often pushing a wheelbarrow as if he's still working for Sarah. The sound of footsteps do echo through the mansion, and that's attributed to Clyde and his heavy work boots.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting concept of this being such a place of paranormal activity for Sarah, and there being spirits from her lifetime that haunted, that aren't negative.
Right.
Especially because he is still going throughout his day caring for the mansion. It's in fact positive, I would say.
Is it possible that she talked about this with the people around her? And so maybe his thought was, I need to be there to like protect her. He chose to be there afterwards.
That's a really good theory. I'm sure she did, because it was a really common discussion, from my understanding, of why she was doing all of these strange architectural things. So I'm sure if you worked there for any significant amount of time, you would have knowledge of it.
Right.
And that's a good theory, because you have to think of it. She was also alone.
Yes.
You know, she was a widow. She was in a new state. I almost said country. She was in a new state by herself in this big house. So I'm sure that she was lonely as well.
Yeah. And so maybe his work boots kind of gave her some comfort.
Yeah, that's true. There are also unknown shadow figures, but these are often seen darting between rooms rather than carrying out tasks, almost as if they don't want to be seen. They do move very quickly, but some have said that the outline looks like Sarah Winchester herself, because there are photos of her.
Yes.
And to me, there are so many reasons that this could be. One, she could be hiding from the spirits in her afterlife if they were out to get her. Two, she could be hiding from the visitors because maybe she doesn't want to be interacted with. Or three, maybe she's just moving in a way that is not conducive to how we normally see movement, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I would be so sad about the first theory. I really want her to have some peace. So that would be a really sad one. I think even the second one would be better than the first one, even if she was just hiding from the visitors. I'm wondering if, this is my personal opinion, that most spirits know when they're spirits. But if she doesn't know, maybe she thinks the visitors are spirits themselves.
Wow, that's a really good theory that I didn't consider. So even if she had been, quote, cured of this haunting in her lifetime, if her spirit's there, she's like, oh my gosh, they're back.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yes. So I'm kind of hoping the third one.
Yeah, I hope that she's just there.
Yes.
And some people do debate whether or not there was any mental illness aspects of Sarah, but I think that goes along with how much do you believe in the paranormal.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in the paranormal, you have to come up with some explanation. And visitors have actually captured photos that show shadow figures and faces in the windows of the house.
Oh.
So from the outside looking in, they've captured these images. Not so much throughout the house. It seems like windows is the key. And we do know that windows are often associated with seeing spirits.
Right. They're stationary at that point, you know?
There are reports from the 1980s of visitors feeling phantom touch while touring the mansion. Reports vary here. It's anything from someone brushing up against them to feeling like their clothing is being pulled. And some even report feeling like their hair is pulled. Now, we know that these can be common presentations of a spirit interacting, but it makes me wonder who this could be. Yeah. I don't think it's Sarah. She doesn't seem like a very social person. I wonder if it's Clyde, wondering who they are or just interacting, or if it's, I'll call them Sarah's spirits that are wondering who these additional people are.
Yes, I'm also wondering if those spirits almost know that the people walking through are alive, and so they're almost messing with them the way that they would have messed with Sarah.
You are full of good ideas. Oh my gosh.
Your face just cracked.
I'm so excited to talk about it with you because I know that you don't know this story, so all of your ideas are like real time. That is a great idea. What if it is insight into what Sarah was experiencing? And how terrible if you were experiencing that day in and day out.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want my hair being pulled even once.
And I didn't find that these physical interactions were specific to any given room. So maybe that really does give credit to the idea that she needed to confuse or trap them. Because if they're just throughout the house.
Yeah. And when you say that these were in the 1980s, did these reports start in the 1980s, or was like this a limited amount of time reported thing?
There was just a big uptick in the 1980s of visitors reporting this. Disembodied voices are often reported in conjunction with these physical sensations. However, people say that the voices sound distant, almost like they're in a different room.
Huh.
And I wonder if it's spirits interacting in different ways. Is it someone's like pulling your hair and someone is in another room saying, hey, stop that?
Yeah.
Or is it the same spirit somehow being close and far at the same time?
Yeah. I like your first theory of it being two different spirits kind of communicating with each other on that realm.
And I couldn't find specifically what any of the disembodied voices were or any EVPs, but I do also wonder if it's Sarah that's the voice. And going off your theory, these spirits are interacting by pulling on hair or clothing. And Sarah, from a different room, because she knows the layout of the house, is saying like, hey, stop that.
Yeah. Well, that would be nice because that would mean she's aware and hopefully not terrorized, but maybe just protecting other people from them.
Yeah. I think it could be a ton of different possibilities. Doors slamming is another common occurrence here. And I do wonder if this has to do with the strange layout of the home. I can imagine you get some pretty weird air patterns in the house with staircases to nowhere and tiny rooms of multiple doors.
Yes.
However, visitors also report that door handles will shake on their own as if someone or something is trying to open them.
Oh, now that is a really weird kind of haunting that I don't think we've heard of too often.
No, and it does make me think again back to Sarah in this idea of trapping the spirits. I think we often think, oh, spirits can move throughout a house however they want. They're not bound by the physical realm. But what if they are? And
we also don't know if Sarah, and this is complete just out of nowhere, just what I'm thinking. When you talk about that, of them being able to kind of just go around our physical world, I'm also wondering if like there were witch aspects to this, you know what I'm saying? And there were hexes put on doors or kind of the space. Again, total out of nowhere.
I did think of a movie where they have ghosts in the house and they kind of create the layout of the house using like spelled panes of plexiglass.
Oh.
I did think of that when I was thinking of this. Who knows if she tried to take some paranormal protections.
Right.
Windows are also said to open and close on their own, which I personally think must be paranormal because what else could cause that?
Yeah, that's doors we talk about the drafts and even just the layout of the house if it's on a slant can cause that. But windows?
Yeah. And if it was just closing, I would think, okay, that can happen, physics. But opening on their own is very, very strange. That's going to take some force.
Right.
This house has been in media and pop culture many, many times. It was featured on Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and there are even movies about Sarah Winchester and her alleged hauntings. Which is why I was so shocked when you didn't know the full story, but I'm so happy you didn't because I love your theories.
Yeah, like I said, I've heard of the general story of, the Winchester house being a bunch of rooms. Although when we first talked, the only reason I knew the general story was when you started getting into it. But I had no idea that it was, there was a reason for this or all of the specifics behind it. So that was really cool.
Yeah, 160 rooms from an 8-room farmhouse is quite a renovation.
Yes, yeah.
And I wonder how many of those rooms are actual rooms versus like small, tiny closets.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, actually. I don't even know if we're going by the modern definition of a room because isn't it like there has to be like a window in it to be considered?
Yeah, something like that.
And I guarantee that's not it. But then, you know how we talked earlier about how the 8-bedroom farmhouse was kind of modest for her? I almost wonder if she went into the 8-bedroom farmhouse knowing that she was going to do these renovations and that's why she bought such a modest place.
Oh, maybe she was pre-haunted, we'll say. I think it would be really cool to have a paranormal investigator or probably team of multiple paranormal investigators map the house and map the hot spots.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if there is that sense of being trapped or being focused in areas with staircases to nowhere or doors to nowhere. I think it would be really interesting to be able to look at a map and say, yes, it is specific to this area.
Yeah.
But there wasn't much, like I said, on what specific areas of the house are haunted. It just seems like the whole house is haunted.
Yeah.
If you have visited the Winchester house, we would love to hear from you. You can email us your experiences at theteam@hauntedus.com and include Haunted Atlas episode 15 in the subject, or you can find us on Instagram at HauntedUS. Tune in to our next episode to see where we drop the pin on our adventure across the Haunted US. This episode of Haunted Atlas was presented by Sarah Sweeney and Erica Barrett. It was researched by Sarah Sweeney, supported by research from Haunted US head writer Mitch Goth, with production assistance by David Sweeney, and music by Colleen Johnson. Our executive producer is Brandon Rugsey. Haunted Atlas is a production of Haunted US. Visit hauntedus.com for more information.